Hello, everybody. Ella J here on behalf of WrestleZone, and today I am joined by the international pop sensation, Becca. So, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks for having me on the pod.
Of course, I am so excited to chat with you today. You have literally been doing so much, but I wanted to start off talking about a recent announcement that you had for the Beckonators. Obviously, you will be returning to Europe and the UK for another international tour in March 2023. So, how have you been preparing or anticipating for this kind of third go around, I believe, on the continent?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I have made a lot of connections out there and um there's a lot of like women on the scene there now that weren't there last time I was there. So I'm really hoping I get a chance to work with some of them. But yeah, it's March 1st through 12th. I'll be around Europe, UK. If any promoters are listening, feel free to email me about specifics. But yeah, I'm really excited. I'm
Yeah, and
excited for that.
obviously if your last two tours were indicative of anything, you were pretty successful as you racked up appearances in like England, Spain, and Germany, to name a few. So, what have been some of your most memorable or fondest memories so far during your travels abroad?
Oh my gosh. My first tour obviously cut short very
Yes.
quickly by my injury. So my second tour I consider to be like my first
Okay.
one basically. Um yeah, it was beyond my wildest dreams, just like such a great experience. I think like one of my favorite experiences was being in Barcelona with Nightshade.
I love that girl, part of Sanitarium. I love her.
Oh my God. She's incredible. I want to wrestle her in singles very badly. But it was just absolute blast. The match is super fun. Just RCW in Spain. Just such a great locker room, such a great promotion. So the crowd was also fantastic. Like it was really cool. We're wrestling in Barcelona, but people had flown from all over Europe just to see the show, which was just a really cool experience. And actually, I had one of my friends was actually in Barcelona with his wife. And so they actually got to come see me wrestle for the first time, even though he lives like in, realistically only a few hours away from me in the US. Saw me wrestle for the first time in Barcelona. It was just surreal and fun, and it was just great. So that was definitely quite an experience. Wrestle Carnival was also a highlight. I mean, another great promotion
Yeah.
that I feel like does such a great job of booking women in such a variety of roles, which I really like. Like there was just a lot of women booked on the card, period, and just doing different types of matches and stuff. It was just a really cool place to be. And then yeah, WXW is just fantastic. Training there was great, meeting everyone. And yeah, I did, you know, being in Germany was just like really cool as well. So all of it was really, yeah, like I said, beyond my wildest dreams. Truly a great experience. Can't wait to go back. Really had such a great time. Excited to, eat some of the food over there that I've been missing and training with some people and all of that. So
Now, I've never been abroad, so please enlighten me on some of the foods that you are craving or that you got to experience over there.
oh my God. I feel like, everyone's different, so people
Yeah.
like different things. I really liked the McDonald's in Germany. I know that's kind of a weird thing to say, but they had like a vegan burger, which was like really good. So yeah, I'll definitely have to hit up McDonald's, German McDonald's. I also loved the Dunkin' Donuts in Germany, just had donuts. Like it was like there was no
Me and
messing
you have
around.
talked about
Like
your love for donuts before.
lots of
Yes.
donuts. Yeah. And like a ton of them. Like it was like great. Um, so yeah, love that as well. I also like uh I feel like this is something very specific to Europe, but they have these little like to go espresso drinks that are like cold that are like really low calorie and have a lot of protein in them. And I have not been able to find anything similar in the US. Like maybe something like they'll have like something kind of
Yeah.
similar, but nothing compared to like the amount of protein, the calories, the taste, like all of it is just top notch. So, and that was like across Europe, everywhere I went, they had those. So, yeah, those are so good to have in the morning. And oh man, there's just so much good stuff. I can't wait.
Interesting. It is almost like dinner time here, so you're making me hungry.
Oh
I
no.
no, you're good. I'm fine. It's fine. Oh, man, that sounds really good. And honestly, I hope to make it over there myself one day, but I'm like also curious too. I mean, from your prior experiences, was there like any sense of culture shock or like noticeable differences? I mean, food, of course, that you encountered between the States and Europe?
I mean, like definitely I would have to like think.
Hmm.
I feel like when I was there, it was probably a lot more apparent. Um, I can't think of stuff right off the bat. I feel like I had my first like abroad experience was in college, and it was the first time I had ever been abroad, and I went to South Korea, and it was like I was like so unprepared, and the culture shock I experienced there was like so extreme, and I loved it. I love South Korea. Can't wait to go back. But I think after that, like nothing really compares. So I feel like I'm not really phased too much anymore, just because like I feel like yeah, nothing was really like to that extreme. Um, but yeah, I can't think of anything off of that.
You're
I'm
also
sure when I was there was a million things. I mean, it was like small things,
yeah.
like they don't put ice in the water, like when you order like a water.
You know, that
Um,
saves a lot of like space in there actually, because if you think about it, it's mainly ice in our stuff here in the States more than the
yeah, so it's
drink.
like not, it's like lukewarm, but
Yeah.
also they don't give you water. Like you have to ask for it. And if you don't
Mm.
specify that's tap water, they'll give you like a bottle of water and charge you.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
so yeah, that's different.
Okay.
I can't think of anything.
It's
There's no
okay.
AC. That's weird.
You're just kind of used to it. You're that international world traveled pop star, so like I get it. But you mentioned obviously Nightshade is one. I love that girl dearly. But
Oh,
I mean,
love
this
her.
go around, are there other certain competitors in the European scene that you're kind of hoping to get the chance to work with?
100%. I mean, um, Millie McKenzie, I
Oh my
was
God.
just like, right. Nina Samuels as well, just too. They were just in Japan too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Um, yeah, there's a lot. Harley Hudson, I've seen some of her stuff. She's really cool. Um, and yeah, Nightshade, Sky Smithson. There's just so many. Honestly, like the
I
UK
know.
just has so many awesome women. Yeah, I would love to wrestle any of them. So,
Well, if there's any promoters out there and they need to book all of these matches while you're there for 12 days, you said March 1st through 12th?
mhm.
Okay, so well, somebody's got to book at least some of these for this. Book the international pop stars, but obviously you had those amazing opportunities coming up. But you've also had some really cool opportunities just very recently too that kind of aired back to back nights, obviously with WWE on Raw, and then AEW Dark that broadcasted the day after on that Tuesday. So before we get more into those in depth, how have those been experiences made you feel and kind of seeing yourself on that grander scale, like back to back, pretty much?
It was wild. I was not expecting that, and it was really cool. Um, yeah, I was just say unexpected. Um, but yeah, kind of like a cool moment of just like reminding myself of like just how cool it is to be a wrestler and to be doing what I'm doing. So,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
obviously you made that appearance on Monday Night Raw, spotted you right away. It was a little bit different. You weren't in the ring, but you were lending your hand to JBL's Poker Invitational as the card dealer, and you're kind of spiffy. I saw you there in kind of the dark red maroon there. I saw you there. So can you tell us more about that experience for you?
It was a great experience. I mean, to be involved in the production like that, um, yeah, it was wild. It was really a great time. Um, yeah, like a informative experience, seeing how everything works there and gets put together, which is great. But also, yeah, just like a lot of fun.
I feel like too, it definitely you weren't wrestling, but you were still around a lot of people who were seasoned veterans and producers too, and obviously said it was a really informative experience. So were you able to kind of pick anyone's brain for advice, or what are some of the things that you think that you learned there that really helped you?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I think one thing is just like always being prepared and like there was just people there who, didn't know, you know, necessarily didn't have a lot of like time to prepare and were just thrown into it and just, just the professionalism that which everyone carried themselves was just incredible, but also just like, as an extra, just being there and being ready to just jump in and do whatever needs to be done. Just like having that experience and learning that was really cool. So
But obviously, I feel like you've definitely undoubtedly risen to be one of the best and most basically popular professional wrestlers of today, but it didn't exactly kind of start out that way for you, as you were kind of you pulled together your debut match, and just a couple months later obviously the pandemic put a halt on a lot of things. So I mean, things were kind of paused at that time before you could even really truly get a start on it. So how did you kind of regain your traction, or kind of find that momentum to keep moving forward physically, mentally, and obviously character wise in wrestling?
yeah, I think for me with the pandemic, it felt like I didn't have much of a choice other than to just keep doing stuff because nobody knew who I was. I think if I had more of a platform then, it might have been easier for me to just kind of like kick back for a little bit, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that
Yeah.
either. Like lots of people took time off, and I think that that's great. Like everyone is just doing what they're doing. I don't think there was like a right or wrong thing to be doing during the pandemic, but I think when you don't have a platform at all and it feels like, oh God, like if I don't do this now, like when is it going to happen? There's just more urgency. So I think that kind of really pushed me during that time to really just jump at every opportunity that I possibly could because there weren't a lot of opportunities during that time. And then from there, I think in terms of like character development, it's some of it I would say is like just me reacting. Well, most of it just me reacting to like who I am or like what I'm feeling at the moment. Um, I think like for me, I knew I wanted to do the pop star thing for a while. And I think there's just a little bit of a rough transition period for me from the scrunchy girl to being the pop star. I think most of that was just like my own mental blocks. And I think just like pushing through that was just trial and error, trying stuff out, seeing what felt like me, what didn't feel like me. And I'm still doing that literally every show. I'm like, I'm gonna try this gear out. Let's see how it feels. And, do I feel comfortable in it? Do I love it? Do I hate it? You know what I mean? Just every match, just um figuring that out more and more. And I think like it's been really fun because I think the places I work certain promotions very regularly.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful to be able to do that because I think when I do this trial and error stuff, it's almost like the crowd is kind of trying it out with me. And I think it can be kind of a fun experience for everyone. I've just like heard from fans and stuff like, oh, like we never know what you're gonna show up in, or like, what like it's kind of a part of the whole experience is like, what's Becca gonna wear? What's Becca gonna do? Like, am I gonna be a little, you know, more rude today? Am I going to be nice today? Like, you just have to find out. Like, and I find out too. Like, we'll see. So I think that like just all of that, it's just kind of like both come naturally, but also it's like listening to yourself, like your voice inside, and also listening to what other people are saying and taking their feedback in, but mostly just my own inner voice.
I think that's a true testament to like you've obviously progressed from like basic Becca to like the leader of the Scrunchy Squad slash Visco girl to now with this more bold pop star, confident, very versatile competitor in your presentation, but you kind of said that you knew for a while that you wanted to embody this pop star. So when did you know or configure this idea that you wanted to be this pop star? Was it kind of from the beginning, or was it kind of during this trial experimental phase, like kind of during basic Becca? When did you know basically that you wanted to do something different?
I would say starting about a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago, which is crazy because I feel like it hasn't really clicked
When
until
you
very
dropped the
recently.
basic. Yeah.
Yeah, so I dropped the basic like maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It was like not too long after I started wrestling that I dropped the basic, and then I was just Becca,
Hmm.
just BECCA,
Yes.
and then when I made my first song, I think um that was kind of like, oh, I want to do something different with the name because I want it to be like I'm an internet artist, like an internet musician. So that's kind of where that started. And then I think it was, maybe like a year after that that I was like made my second song, and I was like, I really like this. I think, should keep going with this and kind of like embody it more. And have that kind of be my whole thing. And I think like as I've kind of delved more into the music, that has also just kind of like really resonated with me more. Um, and I think too, just get when I first started to tag with Alec at Beyond,
Yeah.
I got to really show a different side of me than people had really seen before. And I felt like I was being two different people, where who I was at Beyond Wrestling when I was with him was someone very different than who was showing up to Limitless Wrestling. And I think seeing that difference in myself, it just didn't feel right. Like I want it didn't feel natural, and I felt like I was forcing myself to be something that I wasn't. So um I think like that was really when I realized I wanted to do the pop star thing, because it just kind of clicked like this is how I'm going to be myself everywhere, is by, leaning into the music, leaning into this kind of presentation that I felt like was clicking with me more, and figuring out how to do that in front of audiences that weren't necessarily used to it. Um, so yeah, it's been a bit of time to
Yeah,
happen, but
I mean, you obviously I feel like too early on in your career, I mean, you're been open to people reinvent themselves all the time. You know, it's kind of the creative freedom that the independent scene allows. You're not really like contractually obligated to do this necessarily. Obviously, you have more freedom to do that. And I feel like you obviously portrayed this very popular and bold pop star. And but sometimes you've said before that you think you have too much confidence in yourself, well, other times you feel that you have not enough. So how have you been able to kind of find that balance in between both kind of opposite ends of the spectrum?
I'm so curious, when did we talk last? Was it about a
Uh
year ago?
early this year, late January.
January. Okay. So like pretty close to a year ago, because that
Yeah.
that is exactly how I felt like a year ago.
Yeah.
I felt like sometimes I was too, whatever, and sometimes I was not enough. Yeah, I think is kind of exactly what I'm saying. Just like feeling that difference, and realizing that it's not right. And Yeah, I think too, just like not being afraid to try stuff. I've definitely like there's been times like since we last talked that I have worn a gear or like come out to music or like done something in the ring that afterwards I was like, never again. I don't like it. Um, and I think just like not being afraid of doing that because that's kind of how I think I've figured out
Yeah, I
what it
mean,
I'm doing right now, which I really like. I feel I love what I'm doing right now.
I
It's
love
really
what you're doing now too. And obviously, honestly, like I mean, maybe it's just because you also convey like a confidence that I like aspired to have. I mean, you're yeah, you can be whatever you want. You're like this over the top bold but also versatile. Like there's so many different facets to this kind of international pop star. You can be as dramatic as you want to be, or you can be toned down, and kind of like you said, it's kind of this experimental freedom that you have, at least being open to trying new things. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I feel like that's kind of the fun in it. Kind of looking back, you see what works and what you feel comfortable in and what you don't, which I think lends itself to the success that you had. But you also mentioned earlier, obviously you sustained an injury that kept you out for a little bit earlier this year. So during that time, it gave you a lot of time to really think about what you want to accomplish in wrestling. And obviously you've had time to refocus since then. So what do you hope to accomplish personally and professionally in the upcoming new year then?
Oh yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, yeah, I think, one of my goals was to go back to Europe and the UK,
You're
and
doing
so I
that?
have plans to do that. Um, and honestly, that's part of like a larger agenda that I have to wrestle in Japan. So that's some place I'd really love to go, especially now there's some really talented women from the US going over there. Um, it's awesome to see and inspiring me to, try to get there too. Um, so yeah, that's definitely something that I would love to do. I am also working on an album right now.
Yes.
So I right now I've just released singles. So I am working on that. It's a lot of work. And yeah. So I'm working on that. I have started working on like a music video. Both of those hoping to get released in 2023. Really excited about that. I think in terms of the independence in the United States, I've, you know, been receiving some opportunities lately to debut places. I just debuted for Expect the Unexpected in New Jersey. It was really cool. I want to like keep the debuts coming. Like I'd really love to work in the South. Um, there's some awesome women down there. Texas, Vegas, California, like just lots of places all over the US that I'd like to work for and women that I'd like to wrestle. Um, and then just yeah, I think increasing my presence here in the Northeast as well. I'm really fortunate to be booked a lot in the Northeast. And some there's a lot of good stuff in the works
Yeah.
right now, and I just want to keep it going.
You know what's
Um,
crazy is I think your stock is so high in the Northeast that like it's like what else can you even do? I mean, you've been in Beyond, Limitless, Chaotic. Obviously, you just said New Jersey. Like honestly, I feel like you are one of the staples of the Northeast at this point. So it's also like, what else can she do? So I'm really looking forward to that. And we have a thing called a watch list feature here on WrestleZone. So I mean, kind of over the last couple of years, as obviously, I mean, your 3 year anniversary is coming up like next month, which is crazy, honestly. But honestly, what has been a certain match or moment of yours that you feel really proud in and why?
yeah, I there's a few recent ones. Um, I think my most recent match at Limitless with Kylie Ray was a really special one. She's somebody that I watched her matches when I was just training, and I like first of all I couldn't believe I was even like in the ring with her. So, told me like 3 years ago that this match was happening, I would be like, no,
Mm-hmm.
not real. Um, so just like being there felt like an accomplishment. And then the match itself was just so much fun. And I think that like being able to uh work with someone like who I think Kylie Ray is like the best.
So do I. Hmm.
Just the best. Uh Being able to work with someone like that and feel like I held my own in the ring, really um and just like to have fun with it. That was like another kind of milestone for me because I think, I can get stressed out sometimes when I'm working with like a name like Kylie Ray. What? But like it was so much fun. It was really great. And that was an accomplishment for me. Um and I think like the crowd really had fun with it too. So I think that was like something I'm really proud of, just that whole match overall, the entire experience, the experience that I had, the experience that the fans had, um, and how it impacted the show, the feedback that I got after, like just really happy with that. And yeah, incredible experience. I think working with Masha
Oh my
at
God, yeah.
American Piranha. That was another match I'm really proud of. Uh, really worked my ass off in that match. And there was like 500 people there. Nothing quite like it, you know. So that was incredible as well. And then my match with Alec at Limitless, that was something else I'm very proud of. Because I mean it's a special match to me, considering the history of us and what everything that has happened,
Yeah.
over the past year. Um, but also just the I think it just really the fan reaction to that match really meant a lot to me. Um, and having the support of the crowd um during the match and on the internet and everything. I was just really proud to, like I said, first of all, just to even be there, to be having, to be challenging for the Limitless title is like crazy to me. Like,
You did that,
uh,
Becca.
yeah, like 2 years ago, I was at the first PLC since the pandemic in a non-tournament match. It was my debut for Limitless. No, it was a no crowd filming.
Tapings, yeah.
Yeah, taping. That was like 2 years ago. And since then, I have been in the Vacation Land Cup. And I have challenged for the Limitless World Championship.
But like I said, it's a real testament to I don't know how to explain it. There's just like there's certain people that just blossom so quickly and like quickly adapt and find themselves in positions and rightfully earned positions. Like you've busted your butt, you've presented yourself in a way that's obviously gotten over with the crowd. And I feel like you're like a true diamond in the rough. I don't know how else to explain it. There's only like certain people that just like have it, and you are one that is quickly rising in just 3 years, coming up on 3 years, through a pandemic, through everything. And I also wanted to talk about, obviously part of that presentation is your ring gear, which is obviously often very bright, bold, and often very versatile in there. So I'm very curious, what are your general sources of inspiration behind your ring gear pieces? You could
Oh,
have
great
so many,
question.
I imagine.
First, I just want to say thank you for everything you just said. That was really very nice. And I appreciate it. Okay, now to answer your question. This is a great question. I honestly, I spend a lot of time just on the internet, on Reddit, Twitter, etc. And when I see something that I like, I just save a picture to my phone and I kind of like come back to it when I'm looking at like, you know, having new gear made. And sometimes it's not even outfits. Sometimes it'll just be like this is gonna make me sound crazy, but it's like a picture of like Britney Spears hairstyle from like 2002 or whatever. And it's just something about it that I'm just like, this is it. Like, this is the moment. I want to capture this. And maybe I don't like never use it or whatever, but it's just there. So that's one thing that I do. I just like browse and uh anything like glittery, shiny, just like anything that kind of has attitude.
Ki-
I'm
Also
drawn towards.
kind of avant-garde, like I honestly like I don't know how to explain it. There's this white piece that I think you wore at CCW. I think you wore it there. That's like long sleeves, but it has like these things like hanging from it. It's kind of like unconventional, avant-garde, bold too, if that makes sense. Which I don't know how to explain it, but it's like it's just like it encapsulates like your essence, I feel like. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Thank you. Yeah, sometimes I just try things too. I'm just like, this could be interesting. Let's see how it goes. So yeah, I feel like gear is oftentimes slept on.
Yeah.
Um, and I think like, I don't know, there's definitely a time and place for having some really traditional gear. Um, which I have lots of gear, so I have stuff for every occasion. But if I'm working an independent show and I have the chance to present myself however I want to, like why not just do something weird and different? Just see how it goes and see how it feels. But yeah, that white piece, I really like it. It's just white gear gets dirty so quickly. It's hard to
I
maintain.
can imagine.
But it was a moment. Well, I'll probably wear it again. So
Now, do you have any vision or hints towards maybe your next piece of ring gear?
oh, um, I have something very glittery, very pink in the works right now.
Okay.
So yeah, that's all I'll say.
We look forward to that. It is literally limitless for you with especially the kind of international pop star. Like you can go as over the top or as toned down as you want. So I feel like you haven't really like I mean, you haven't limited yourself. You just have there's so many things you can do with it. So I'm really excited for that. But to close things out, obviously outside of wrestling, you said that you're hoping to release an album soon. You've been working on some music videos and stuff as the international pop star. So I'm curious, what does your creative or songwriting process look like when you're making new music? Like where do you draw inspiration from for that?
Good question. It's weird. I don't feel like I necessarily draw inspiration from music I listen to. I don't It's hard. I mean, there's musicians I definitely really admire and I look up to them, but I have no idea about their songwriting process or
Okay.
anything. So I just kind of go off my own whatever. A lot of times it's just me in the car driving to a show for hours and I just think of lyrics and stuff and then I have somebody I work with who does the production and mixing and I have another sound engineer that I work with for the recording. So we have like a little team there and really happy to work with them, really really talented um, people. So yeah, it's kind of I would say with my if I didn't wrestle, I feel like the process would probably look very different. But because of wrestling, I usually don't get a lot of focus time for music. So when I do have like a weekend or 2 days or whatever a day where I don't have anything and I have the ability to work on stuff, I try to like just really focus and yeah, I just kind of like I get like crazy and I just sit on my computer and mess around and stuff or whatever or call up my producer or whatever and just talk. So yeah, it's kind of a wild process. And yeah, it makes the days when I don't wrestle
Hmm.
really valuable because it's like I have this whole other thing
I know.
that I need to have time to work on, but it's really hard with the wrestling and all, but I make it work. So
You do. And obviously, we look forward to whenever this album comes up. Do you kind of have like a vibe in mind or like a certain emotion that you hope to portray through this album? Or is it kind of a range of things for you? Obviously, I assume it'll be in the
um
pop genre, but
yeah, I think that it is kind of a view of me as a as a pop star, but the different sides of that. I think sometimes like how I present myself in the ring, it could
Yeah.
come off very one-sided. But when you look at, who I am overall, there's many different sides of that, and it all builds up to one large picture of who I actually am. As B3cca, pop star. And I think this album is kind of like painting that picture, like a first look at who I am. So yeah.
Well, we look forward to that. If kind of very quickly, if you had to describe Becca in B3cca in 5 words or less, how would you describe it just so the people have a better idea of this Becca that you're trying to portray?
Ooh, 5 words. Okay. I would say um sparkly,
Yeah, no doubt.
aggressive, intelligent, intentional,
We love a
and
strategic queen.
right. um and what's the last one?
Bold?
Yeah, yeah, sure. I
It's
was gonna say
kind
like
of,
colorful, but
I
like
mean,
bold.
yeah,
Yeah.
colorful kind of falls under the bold spectrum. Bright
Yeah.
too. One of those that kind of just goes along with your ring gear too. You've always been pretty bright and bold and colorful too, so I feel like that just all goes together. But Becca, before we let you go, can you please tell the listeners where they can find you on all your social medias?
Yes. It's B3cca forever on Instagram, Twitter. I have a merch site. It's linked in my bios there. I also have Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music. It's B3cca forever there as well. So definitely check out my music and follow me on Spotify, follow me on Twitter, follow me everywhere. And yeah,
Rest in peace, Scrunchy Fan 97. Just
I
saying.
know. It served its purpose.
It did, it did. But Becca, thank you so much for joining me here today. Of course, it's been always a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you so much for having me on. This was really great.